Good morning. Thank you everyone for coming today. I know first session of the morning, we're lucky, we get bright attention, coffee's running through the veins. We've got a great keynote speech coming up later today. I hope you all get a chance to attend. Selfishly, one of the speakers is Colonel Chris Hadfield. I'm a big space geek, so I'm super excited to hear his stories, some of his challenges and some of his experiences as he was circling the globe hundreds of thousands of times. We'll be joined in a few minutes by two customers that were introduced, Tian and Dam. So looking forward to hearing their stories on Amazon Connect and how they, through their journey with Amazon Connect, we'll hear some of their experiences. So before we get too deep into the nuts and bolts of Amazon Connect, I thought it would be prudent to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and trends that we're facing in the industry. These are observations that we have, that analysts have, and probably you as customers also have. 75% of customers expect to receive a good customer service. Sadly, probably only about 49% actually report receiving that great customer experience. So we've got this disjointed customer experience, which is becoming a widespread pain point in the market today. And delivering that seamless digital user experience across all the different touch points of that customer journey is becoming tougher and tougher. And the traditional voice-only, single-channel mentality isn't going to help get us there. Increase of traffic and demand on our customer service centers. Some of this was based on the pandemic, but even post-pandemic, we're seeing a change in behavior and customer demand on moving reliance on self-service capabilities. So that's now starting to factor into our contact center models today. Lastly, we can't forget about this ugly number. And the spread is because this mixes both private sector and public sector. But agent attrition is becoming a bigger problem every year. And the reason for that, agents tell us, cumbersome technology, bad technology, they're giving their customers bad experience. They're getting customers, by the time they get to them, they're frustrated, they're upset, and the agents just aren't having a great experience. When we talk about customer experience, when we talk about convenience, you have to look at the inverse as well, friction. And these are things here that waste a customer's time and prevent them from getting that assistance quickly, or just deliver a plain bad experience. Maybe a customer's preferred channel isn't available. The younger age group prefers to communicate with a mobile device using chat, SMS, and those types of features. If they don't get that, they're not happy. Cumbersome or old technology. A lot of the younger generation is not going to sit in a phone tree pressing numbers trying to get to the right numbers. They want to self-serve. They may receive an impersonal experience. What impersonal experience may be is someone that's thrown up a chatbot but hasn't really thought that process through and is getting inaccurate information, or even worse, inconsistent information. And that's causing all of the friction that you see here. And it's probably, eliminating this from your contact center is probably something that you're all hyper-focused on. At Amazon Connect, with Amazon Connect, we're striving to simply delight customers while saving agents time and effort. And we're doing that with Amazon Connect and an omni-channel customer experience. We have multilingual conversational AI capabilities in IVR, natively built within Amazon Connect, that easily understands that intent, maintains the context that the customer's provided throughout the entire journey, regardless of the channel that they choose to communicate on, and automates simple tasks across multiple languages. Happy to say French Canadian is one of our supported languages. Self-service options, giving customers faster, more delightful and personalized resolutions that help to eliminate that customer friction or frustration. achieve the best outcome the first time they connect, all while reducing the time agents spend with the interaction and lowering the overall agent contact volume. This year, we launched outbound campaigns in the Canadian region. And with outbound campaigns, you can proactively communicate across voice, SMS, chat, or even email channels to serve your customers quickly, improve agent productivity, all while maintaining compliance to local Canadian regulations. No doubt you're probably going to hear a lot today about AI and ML. Very topical, in the news. AI and ML, no different in the contact center, can help better know what's happening with your customers, who they are, what they need, and then deliver a more personalized experience, even if that service is fully automated end-to-end. In fact, over 50% of organizations expect the majority of their customer experience to be managed by AI and fully robotic. And that opportunity is growing. With the use of generative AI, which again, you're probably going to hear a lot about today, or Gen AI, you can expand and improve on areas like agent assistance, conversational analytics, and self-service to drive immediate business value directly into your contact center. From the moment you greet a customer on the channel of their choice, whether that be voice, SMS, or chat, all the way to measuring the outcome of that customer interaction, machine learning can help the customer experience. When we look at assistance, who's the best agent or resource to provide assistance to this customer? Listening to the customer's intent to determine the next best steps. What do they need help with? Again, understanding that customer intent and context and trying to find answers, whether those may be automated answers or routing to the agent that has the best skill set to provide the answers to this question. Identity, and in fact, you're going to hear a little bit of this from Etienne at Health Canada. Using voice biometrics, which is natively built into Amazon Connect, in a natural conversation with the customer within 5 to 6 seconds, Amazon Connect is going to deliver a confidence score saying, based on the voice biometric print on file, the person you're talking to is indeed the person who says they are. And it's going to give them a fraud risk score immediately, automatically, directly to the agent, so that there's no more of the cumbersome, what's your mother's maiden name? What's your password? What's your first dog's name? All of that is helping drive that efficiency. History, we hear it all the time. Customers have multiple different repositories of information. Agents are having to go and look through all those different repositories for past history of the engagements with these customers. So how can we bring that into a single pane of glass through connected repositories using APIs to have that single view of your customer and know what their past engagements were? Did we solve their problem? Do we have an open problem with this customer, and this is probably why they're calling, and knowing that before you even take the call. Knowledge. Amazon Connect, again, has a native built feature called Amazon Wisdom, which is an AI/ML solution, which is listening to the interaction and providing the agent with real-time answers even before the customer is done asking their question. It's doing that through LLM models, which are trained on your connected repositories. This is your information, and going out, looking for what the customer is looking for, and providing those answers back to the agent, again, many times before they're even done answering the question. Finally, feedback, that 360-degree loop. Using machine learning again, you're able to evaluate each conversation and get that customer sentiment score. That can be in real time, or that can be historical. So if I'm a coach or if I'm a supervisor and I see an agent that may be new and they're on a call and their customer sentiment is declining, in real time I can go in and coach that agent, whether that be going online and listening in, or whether that be side saddling that agent and helping them through the conversation. Amazon Connect's built on 4 key pillars, utilizing all AWS services. We look at those 4 key pillars here. Omnichannel customer experience. What does that mean? Allowing customers to interact naturally with agents on whatever medium they choose. Agent empowerment and productivity. Single pane of glass workspace for the agent with the ability to pull in data from connected repositories to help them, have machine learning help them to provide answers on what the next best step could be. We also just launched step-by-step guides, which gives agents, again, based on what the customer has said, here's a step-by-step guide that we think is going to help you solve that problem. Analytics, insights, and optimization. Giving the power of real-time and historical metrics to supervisors or administrators to forecast, plan, adjust, and coach. Finally, self-service configuration and management. An easy-to-use interface that allows you to configure and manage the entire Connect environment without having to bring in costly experts or other parties to manage. Enough about Amazon Connect. Let's get into one of our customer examples. I'll like to bring up Dems, who will talk to you about his Amazon Connect journey.
Thank you, Garrett. Almost everything that Garrett mentioned, we used it in our project, so I'll be open about it. COVID-19, it looks like a long time ago, but to me, it's very fresh in my memory because I remember that day, March, I think 26th, when my CEO came to us panicking, saying, we need to do this. So what's this program about, right? Like, so, I mean, we were, obviously Canada Post was declared as an essential service, so that means like we had to get people back to work. 47,000 employees, actually 75,000 in total, but 47,000 people had to be reached within a span of about 3 to 4 days. So so let me quickly talk about who we are, what we do, and then get into the problem, right? Like, so we are Innova Post, the IT arm of Canada Post. We provide solutions to Canadians. So there are 2 kinds of solutions that our team provides. Everything that Canadians see in the website, track your package, that's one side. But I come from the operations side. So for me, the software that my team develops is all about like the 50,000+ internal workers, like, who do transportation of mail, who go in minus 53 degrees and deliver mail, and like, and plant floor operations, and the 37 million addresses that we manage. That's primarily our portfolio. So on this day, the requirement was very funny. Like, our CEO came to us and said, hey, we have this crisis. We have to reach all these people. We need to ask them how many of these people are even willing to come to work. That was the challenge. The first challenge was like, Canada Post did not want to look at an IT solution. They said, oh, let's set up a call center, right? Like, let's get people to call all these 50,000+ workforce. And then immediately, they figure out the cost is going to be exorbitant. So my CEO said, can you think of something? And that's when thanks to Ralph, I met him and I said, I have this idea where we need to reach out to these people. What can we put together, right? And then we said, let's try some experiments. So within 24 hours, we put an Amazon Connect call flow. And we gave the number to our CEO and said, dial this. Get an experience of English and French conversation. How does that feel like? That's predominantly what we had to do. So we needed a workflow for about 50,000 employees. Basically, Canada Post is bilingual, so we need to have that whole thing in both English and French. And the most important thing was all this feedback that would come, how many people are willing to work, what's their response, how they are, what it is, has to go back to the HR system, because at the end of the day, HR wants like a complete, step-by-step log of how we reached them and what it was. And then basically, we were told, like, get started in next 2 hours. That was our command. So we said, OK, we have to reach plant-wide. Everybody has to be reached across Canada. Like, worker safety was a big issue. Then the debate was, should we set up a website where people can actually go and click the questionnaire? Are you available? Yes, no. Should it be like a quiz-based? Was the question. That's when we intervened and said, that's not going to work. People are in panic situation. How are you going to reach them to say, this is the work? Are you going to text them? Are they going to trust your text? Then we said, Connect is the right solution because we can actually reach them by voice, give them the feeling that we have, where we are, and then start a call flow. So we got one of the HR and the health and safety person to prepare a small speech, and we said, hey, it has to be very personal. When the person picks the phone, you need to express yourself and say, this is what we want, and then start a kind of a call flow. So what I really liked about Connect was within that small span of 48 hours, we were able to get my software developer trained, and it was a very simple software to use. It was going back to computer science 101. It's just a flow chart that you need to build, right? That's what they teach you in computer science 101, right? So just building a flow chart. And then English and French were so easily built into the product. We actually got everything working so quickly that we were so excited that we gave the number to our CEO and said, just try this call, and then we'll work out the architecture as it keeps flowing into the system. All along, we were thinking about this whole compliance that we need to meet for HR, how much we need to give them as information, what we collect, and everything. We were keeping it in mind as we are collecting stuff in the call flow. I don't know people who have used Connect, you'll find it, it's extremely simple to use. You just start off with a blank sheet, and then you start building yourself. You just say, hey, if the guy says 1, what do you do? If the guy says 2, what do you do? And then you just build your way into it. So this is roughly the architecture. Basically, we just had pen, paper, whiteboard, and whatever, on the screens because everybody was sitting at home, and we just drew this. We said, okay, Amazon Connect, we'll do a flow chart. We'll use Lambdas to connect to our CRM. We'll use DynamoDB to just collect and aggregate all the logs, and then we'll parse it out. Because we were in panic mode, so at that time, it was just get this thing going, get this all organized, and then we'll move to production very quickly. What are some of the key things that I really enjoyed about the solution was low code. In that 48 hours, trying to find somebody who knows Java, or .NET. That was my biggest headache. I said, I need somebody who can just draw things. And Amazon Connect is so easy that not only we drew things, we gave it to actually HR people and said, you know what, if you don't like the call flow, you change it yourself, right? So it was so easy for us to work. So we actually did pair programming. I got my developer and Canada Post HR in a Teams call, and we shared the screen and said, you don't like this? We'll cut this. We'll play it again. So it was pure pair programming that we were playing, right in this space because we didn't have time to actually finish it. Once we got the whole call flow done, rest was simple architecture. How do you take this back to the systems, right? We decided to use API Connect. DynamoDB was so easy because it was so naturally. It was like a plug and play. We just connected the two. The logs started flowing. And the best part about this was English and French was so easily built in. So, when I remember after all this conversation, when we met labor relations, and they said, do you have French? I said, just press 2. Right? And the benefits that were recognized were something that I'm very proud of. Because in 2 weeks, we completed the entire flow, and we went to production, right? Now, close to 45,000 people were reached, inbound call, and we basically ran this campaign several times because sometimes people were not available at the time when we were reaching them. And the beauty of Connect was it was not only both outbound, it was automatically inbound. Because if you'd see a missed call and you'd actually call back, it would get you right back where we wanted them to start. We really loved the rapid development. The CI/CD was so simple. DevOps was natural. It's a very powerful alternative to anything that we had thought about, email campaign, web links, anything that we wanted to think at that time. And even now, even when I'm in a calm moment, I would think about it. I think Connect was a very obvious choice. English and French was built in, and reporting was so easy. So that's the team. My CEO just said, I'll have a Scrum Master, but it's just 2 people, a developer and myself. And then we crowdsourced the whole thing because we had no time. We just said we developed it, and we just said, entire InnovoPost, please try it. right? Like, so everybody tried it. They gave us feedback. Oh, 2 is not working, 3 is not working, right? We fixed it, and then we were on the fly doing it. So it just goes back to the fact that you don't need a large team to get a massive call center style thing going. Like, it would have cost Canada Post millions of dollars if you had gone the human way in that level of crisis. And success reached success. So once we finished return to call, then everybody got vaccinated. Then now Canada Post said, we want to reach out to the same folks to see whether they were vaccinated, because if you're vaccinated, you can come back to work. What we did was just right-click, duplicated the call flow, changed return to work to vaccination status. Again, we did not go back to the web methodology, phone, nothing. Connect was naturally built in now into the ecosystem. So now HR, labor relations, everybody's now thinking, oh, that's an easier way to approach our employees. And so, so we now did a second campaign immediately following the vaccination. And finally, now we are going to the next level of architecture, what we are calling as CAS, which is called Connect as a Service. During crisis, we had to skip a few red tapes, because we were pulling people's personal cell phones, this thing, we had to cross a lot of security boundaries. We don't want to do that. We want to build this as a service so that HR and LR can come to us at a regular interval so that they can come and say, hey, I want to run this campaign. This is what I have as my audience. It's a call blast. It's an emergency dial, right? It's a weekend availability. Who's available to work, on this Labor Day long weekend kind of stuff. So we said, we need to put security into place. We need to vet all these numbers. We don't have to run this whole thing in crisis. So that's why we now started a program called Connect as a Service, where we are connecting our HR systems to Connect. We're pulling in all the data, curating it, building trees of layers so that when HR comes to us and says, I want to run a campaign, we can virtually get them going in under an hour or 2. So that's our next step that we're taking in Connect. So in summary, idea to execution was actually 48 hours, but it takes some time to test and all that stuff. So I put 2 weeks, but it was actually 48 hours. The product went live in 3 weeks. The outreach was humongous. Thanks to Amazon for helping us, walk through that. And our next step is we are taking it to the next level, which is making it like an architectural service rather than just as a product. So if there are any questions, I'll take it at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Dams, it's incredible to think about the amount that we can accomplish during a crisis. My name is Etienne Lefebvre. I'm the Director of IT Service Management over at Health Canada. And our situation wasn't through a crisis. We're in operations. And so right now we support Health Canada, the employees of Health Canada, the employees of the Public Health Agency of Canada, roughly about 15,000 users. We have 51 different support services that we're providing, and our service desk is currently outsourced. So we leverage another offering currently, and it's troublesome. It's quite honestly, we talk about wait times. Garrett mentioned that. I can tell you that for the month of August, 3,500 people waited at least 5 minutes to get a representative on the phone. But I can't tell you beyond 5 minutes because of the reporting of that agreement that we have. But yet yesterday, I got complaints if somebody waited 35 minutes for support. How is that good service? The service that we have, quite honestly, the word I use is abysmal. It's something that it's painstakingly for us. We're getting a 42.5% first point of contact resolution rate, which just isn't good enough. The standard is around 80%. We have no analytics into the service that we're providing. Quite honestly, the way that we do on-call up until recently was an iPhone. We had that set up. I joined Health Canada in 2007. I left in 2016, and I came back in 2021. In 2016, the call forwarding service we were using is still what they had up until this past year. We had no idea on weekends or evenings, did we get a phone call? Are we paying this overtime? What's happening? We had no insights. And then when it came to our actual national service desk, the data that we got was limited. I need to be able to make decisions for our organization on how we staff, how we provide services, what we need to automate, and I can't do that without data. Also, our systems, being public sector, some of them are outdated. Some of them are outdated, and that's not going anywhere anytime fast. And so we needed to find a way to come and bring us to today and leverage new technologies. So when we talked about what we wanted, it was a small team, small group of individuals that were all focused on the customer experience. We really wanted to anticipate the customer needs. When I go to the dentist knows that I have 2 dogs, knows I have 2 kids, knows everything about me, and it's not because they remember. They write it down. They write it down, and I have a profile at the dentist. And so we wanted to have something similar to that. Wanted to know our clients. What's their role in the organization? Yeah, we have a directory, but the directory is in an outdated product that we use, and it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and I need to connect to the VPN for it. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I need to be able to serve my customer now. So I needed a place to have who is my customer, and very specifically in the first use case we'll get into is for senior leadership. So who is supporting the senior leaders in the organization? What products are they using? What laptop do they have? What phone do they have? What operating system is on that phone? And we needed to measure performance. We needed to understand, what does good look like? And are we doing good? So that's how we decided to meet with Amazon Connect. To talk about Connect. And so in March of this past year, we said, you know what, it's time. We have to shift it. We can't wait anymore. We wanted to leverage automation and look at the most frequent things that we have as a service provider. And we wanted to leverage voice authentication and create an environment for people to use natural language and be routed to the service that they had. We also know that Connect is a product, and we have other products. We needed to integrate our products with Connect. They can no longer be standalone. They need to be integrated so that we can understand, as an example, a service management tool. We need to be able to have that service management tool right in front of us so that when we're interacting with the customers, we can see their history in Connect. We can interact with them based on their history and anticipate what their needs are. And again, performance. I think the one data point that I look for is mean time to resolution, or first point of contact closure. Today, I can't get that. So how did we do it? Well, it was the middle of March. I think it was a Thursday or Friday, and we reached out to Amazon, and then I think we met Garrett on Monday. And we talked about what Connect could do for us. And initially, we wanted to focus on senior leadership, right? That goes back to that iPhone on call on weekends. We needed to provide a service that was reliable. Because going back to that iPhone, I would get calls at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday, which I don't want. And at 7:30 in the morning, it would be the customer complaining that nobody picked up that was on call. It wasn't that the technician wasn't available. It's that they were actually helping somebody else, but they got a busy signal or they got a voicemail. There was nothing there to let them know, hey, we're just helping somebody else. We'll get back to you. So we met with Amazon for a day or two, and we talked about what the realm of the possibility was with Connect. We started middle of March. We started, I think, the next week or 2 weeks after. We rapidly brought a team together. And when I say a team, we call it the 2-pizza team. So the team is only big enough to feed, that you have 2 pizzas to feed that team. So we had a couple Amazon resources that worked with us, and we had a Scrum Master internally as well, and a couple individuals on our team who knew our product, who knew our services. And really for us, we told the team, you're about to be very uncomfortable for a long period of time. Because that uncomfortableness is what's going to allow us to grow. It's going to allow us to move forward. And so the team now knows. We just pedal forward. We go forward. Every day we try to implement something else. We know in public sector that sometimes projects take 2 years to launch. And no, this was ready at the end of April. So in 6 weeks, we had this up and running. Now, of course, because we are public sector, there was a couple things with IT security and the other groups that we just had to make sure that we were good to go. And so we've launched this product now. And so we've launched Connect for senior leadership in the organization. And we went from wait times of over 5 minutes that I can't tell to 32 seconds. That's the latest that we got. We haven't missed a single call in the past couple of months since we've launched it. We're surveying every single user to understand, we implemented a callback feature so that if you are on hold, you don't have to wait. You can just put your phone number in and we'll call you back. It's not being used because we're answering the calls, because the system works. So when we built that product, there was a communication plan that had to go out as well. We actually decided what we did in the organization is very different from DAM's, is when the pandemics came up, we just created more iPhones with more numbers, and we routed them all to different people. And so for us, it was a bit of a chaotic moment when we brought in this service, because we told everyone all the other numbers no longer exist. So to communicate with our customers, they're the senior leaders in the organization. Lucky for us, we had direct communications with those teams. And we said, this is your new phone number. Here is the contact card. Here is the information enabling our users. And honestly, the only escalations that we've got is because they haven't called the service. They sent an email. And an email is a one-way communication way. It doesn't work. But that wasn't it. That wasn't it. We saw how quickly we were successful with Connect. And our team now knows that every idea gets heard. There are no bad ideas. If we can't implement it today, or next week, or the week after, it goes on a roadmap. We talk about it in the future, and then every two weeks we talk about what are we going to do in the next 2 weeks. And we look at the roadmap, and we look at the backlog and try to understand what is it we can build. So Voice ID was something that we built. We had a problem. The number one thing at any service desk, password resets. When I went to our partners and said, hey, we want to automate the password reset service, they said, why? You're deprecating that product. Just wait 18 months. I can't afford to wait 18 months. The customers need that today. The customer experience is today. So I politely told them, no, we're going to go ahead and build this, and we'd love your support. So we went and built it. We went and built this Voice ID, and this was for password resets. So now, when it goes into production, what happens is you call the service. It verifies your identity based on your voice. But we also know it's passwords, and it's our protected B network, and we want to make sure that the authentication is there. So we built in a process that a verification code gets sent to the user all through Connect. The user then reads that code back to the Connect system, and it validates the user one more time. So very shortly, our service desk will no longer be offering password resets. Our technicians who poke our identity access management team every single day will no longer be allowed to poke those individuals because they're leveraging automated services. They're using the services that we're building to just provide better customer service. That's all it is. The next thing we did was with Connect, we wanted to automate account provisioning, automate account deprovisioning. I was on that team in 2008. Those SOPs still exist. They've changed a little bit over the years because of technology, but we don't need to do this anymore. We can leverage technology and leverage automation to be able to build that for us. And very soon that's going into production as well. But it doesn't stop there, because you can no longer build a product and just leave it be. So next is all about continuous improvement. It's about where do we go from here? So this week, we started our first sprint, and our deliverable is November 27th. And we're launching a national service desk for the Public Health Agency of Canada. That's big for us. That's quick. That's rapid. There's a lot of HR there that scares me. I'll be very honest. That scares me every single day. But to Dan's point, the Connect piece is easy. We already have it for senior leadership. Copy, paste, change the flows a little bit, change the wording. And the wording is just type it out, and you're done. But where we're going from here is Lex. So Garrett talked about chat. He mentioned that the newer generation don't want to talk on the phone. Well, we need to recognize that as a service provider. So we're building a Lex chatbot that is going to help us integrate and line up our clients with whatever service they're looking to do. Of course, by November 27th, I've said to the team, I'd like 5 things automated. I didn't tell them what I wanted automated. Give me 5 things automated. Go figure out what we can do, because that's how you start. That's how you start. And then after this, we are going to be in a position that we can continue to develop and continue to automate. November 27th is pretty soon. It's pretty soon. It comes up pretty quick. But we're confident because we built our team and we built a foundation of what Amazon calls one-way doors and two-way doors. And a two-way door is something you can come back from. You have a backup plan. So what we did was we enabled the team to make decisions. And at first, in those first couple of weeks, we hit a lot of roadblocks. We hit a lot of we thought were one-way doors. And they'd come to me, and we'd talk about it. But over time, the team became more comfortable. They understood that there's a lot more two-way doors than we actually thought there was. And we can recover pretty quickly. So now the team very rarely comes to me and says, hey, we need a decision on this. They just say, hey, we decided this, and then we talk about it. Like, is that good? Is that bad? You know, sometimes when it comes to money, they'll say, do you want this license or this license? And we have a quick chat, and I'm like, yeah, go build it. But we know that right now, similar to what we heard earlier, Connect as a service. As an organization that supports everyone at Health Canada and the Public Health Agency, I need to build this out as a service. I need to be able to offer this to my customers. Because Health Canada and Public Health Agency have call systems that citizens call into, that employees of the Government of Canada contact us. The Employee Access Program through the Government of Canada is ran through Health Canada. So that's another use case for us of going into the future. Where does that bring us? So November 27th is our launch date. We know that there's a backlog. We know there's a backlog of things that we want to implement. But what's next? Well, that's when we go to our customers. That's when we demonstrate, hey, look at my IT concierge service that we built. Look at our 5-star rating, 98% satisfaction. That's massive. We're anticipating that we're going to be able to take our service desk that has wait times of 30 minutes and reduce it to something like 35 seconds. It comes back to customer service, and what ties into this as well is understanding how long it takes to resolve our tickets. I started with mean time to resolution. I started with first point of contact resolution. Well, with Connect, that's a flag. It's a checkbox for the agent that picked up the phone that said, yep, close this. But just because it was closed doesn't mean the customer's satisfied. So let's use sentiment analysis. Let's leverage sentiment analysis to understand, was this conversation positive? Now, spoiler alert, whenever somebody calls the service desk, they're not happy. They're upset, they're frustrated, and we see that. But the goal is to see that trend in that conversation go positive. Let's see it become with a positive outcome. And that's what we're seeing today. That's all I have. We have some time for questions now. Thank you so much.